Kang Minho woke to the smell of coffee and the certainty that someone was about to die. His hand moved on instinct, reaching under the pillow for the gun that was always there, fingers closing around cold metal before his eyes even opened. The penthouse was supposed to be empty. His daughter, Hana, was at her grandmother's. His security team knew better than to enter unannounced, which meant whoever was in his kitchen was either suicidally brave or had a death wish. He sat up slowly, every muscle coiled tight. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, painting his bedroom in shades of gold that felt wrong, too peaceful for what was about to happen. The gun felt heavy in his hand as he moved toward the door, silent on bare feet. Then he heard it, humming. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Are you team run away from the dangerous man or team one more night couldn't hurt? Let's see who's really about that risky love life. And if you're new here, hit subscribe because this story is about to get messy. Someone was humming in his kitchen. Minho's finger eased off the trigger slightly. Assassins didn't hum. They didn't make coffee. They definitely didn't. He stepped into the living room and his entire world stopped. A woman stood at his kitchen island, her back to him, wearing nothing but his white dress shirt. His shirt, the one he'd thrown over a chair last night before... His memory was a blur. Whiskey. Too much whiskey. And her. She turned, coffee mug in hand, and smiled at him like she belonged there. "Good morning," she said, her voice carrying that same warmth it had last night when she'd... Minho's grip tightened on the gun. "Who the hell are you?" Her eyes, dark brown, impossibly warm, dropped to the weapon in his hand. She didn't flinch, didn't scream, just took a slow sip of coffee and raised one eyebrow. "You really don't remember last night, do you?" His jaw clenched. The shirt barely reached mid-thigh on her, exposing long brown legs that his brain unhelpfully supplied he'd had wrapped around his waist approximately 8 hours ago. Her natural hair was pulled into a messy bun, a few curls escaping to frame her face. She looked comfortable, at home, in his space. That terrified him more than any rival gang ever had. "Answer the question." His voice came out cold, flat, the tone that made grown men confess to crimes they didn't commit. She set down the coffee mug with deliberate slowness. "My name is Zara Mitchell. I clean your penthouse every Tuesday and Thursday." She gestured around the space. "This penthouse. The one you apparently don't remember bringing me back to last night after you found me crying in the parking garage because my daughter's school called about another incident with kids making fun of her accent." Fragments started clicking into place. The parking garage. A woman sitting on the concrete, phone in hand, shoulders shaking. Him, 3 drinks deep, stopping. Because... "You were crying," he said slowly, lowering the gun but not putting it away. "I was." She crossed her arms, and the movement made his shirt ride up slightly. He forced his eyes to stay on her face. "And you..." She laughed, but it sounded bitter. "You told me that anyone who made my daughter cry didn't deserve to breathe my air. Then you asked if I wanted a drink." He closed his eyes. "Fuck. I don't drink with employees. You made an exception. I don't make exceptions. You made one last night." Her voice softened. "You told me about Hana, about losing her mother. You told me things I don't think you tell anyone, Mr. Kang." "Don't." The word came out sharper than he intended. "Don't call me that, not after..." "After what?" She stepped closer, and he caught the scent of his soap on her skin. "After you kissed me against your front door? After you carried me to your bedroom? After you..." "Stop." His hand not holding the gun came up between them. This was a mistake. Something flickered across her face. Hurt, maybe. But it was gone so fast he might have imagined it. "I know," she said quietly. She moved past him toward the bedroom, and every instinct in his body screamed to stop her, to pull her back, to... She emerged 30 seconds later wearing her cleaning uniform, a simple black polo and slacks that somehow made her look even more beautiful in their plainness. His shirt was folded neatly in her hands. "I should go." She held out the shirt. "This probably needs dry cleaning now." Minho stared at the folded fabric, at her hands, slim fingers, short nails, a small scar on her left thumb he'd traced with his tongue last night while she gasped his name. He'd gasped hers too, Not Mrs. Mitchell. Not the help. Zara. Keep it, he heard himself say. Her eyes snapped to his. What? The shirt. Keep it. He finally set the gun down on the entry table, ran a hand through his hair. I have 20 others exactly like it. I can't. Yes, you can. He moved to the kitchen, poured himself coffee with hands that were steadier than they should be. Consider it payment for last night. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Payment. Her voice was ice. You're paying me for sleeping with you. That's not what I... No, I understand perfectly. She walked to the door, his shirt still clutched in her hands. The rich man throws money, or shirts, at the problem and it goes away. How could I forget? That's what people like you do. People like me? Something hot and dangerous unfurled in his chest. You don't know anything about people like me. She turned, and the look in her eyes made him take a step back. I know you're Kang Minho. I know this building belongs to you along with half the commercial real estate in Koreatown. I know the men in black suits who come here at 2 a.m. aren't discussing legitimate business. Her voice never rose, but every word hit like a bullet. I know you have a daughter you love more than anything. And I know last night you looked at me like I was the first real thing you'd touched in years. His throat went tight. Zara. But I also know that this morning you looked at me like I was a threat, like I was something to be managed, controlled, paid off. She opened the door. So don't worry, Mr. Kang. I'll forget last night ever happened. I'm very good at forgetting things I'm not supposed to remember. Wait. But she was already gone, the door closing with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. Minho stood there, coffee going cold in his hand, his shirt, his favorite shirt, the one his late wife had bought him, walking out of his life in the hands of a woman who'd made him feel alive for the first time in 3 years. He should let her go. It was safer this way. Cleaner. People in his world didn't get happy endings. They got bullets and betrayal and blood on their hands that never quite washed off. But then his phone buzzed, a text from his brother, Taemin, who ran security for the organization. We have a problem. Park's crew knows about the shipment. They're moving tonight. Meet at the warehouse in 20. Minho stared at the message, then at the door Zara had just walked through. Park Jinsu, his oldest rival. A man who'd gut his own mother for leverage. A man who made it his business to know everything about everyone in Minho's life. A man who definitely knew that the woman who cleaned his penthouse had just walked out wearing his shirt at 7 a.m. His hand was dialing before he could think twice. Taemin, I need a security detail. Discreet. On Zara Mitchell. She cleans my place. 24/7 coverage starting now. A pause. Boss? Why? Because I'm an idiot. Because I let her get close. Because Park will use anyone to get to me, and I just handed him the perfect target. Because I said so. He hung up, grabbed his keys, and headed for the door. The warehouse meeting could wait. Right now, he needed to make sure the woman who'd somehow slipped past every defense he'd built didn't pay for his one moment of weakness. He just hoped he wasn't already too late. 3 floors down in the parking garage, Zara sat in her 15-year-old Honda, his shirt pressed against her face, breathing in cedar and sandalwood and the scent of a man who'd held her like she was precious, and then looked at her like she was a mistake. Her phone buzzed. A text from her daughter Amara's school. Ms. Mitchell, we need to discuss Amara's behavior today. She hit another student. Please call immediately. Zara's eyes burned. Her 7-year-old daughter, who'd never hurt anyone, who cried when she stepped on bugs, had hit someone. Because kids were cruel. Because Amara spoke with her grandmother's Jamaican accent, mixed with Zara's American one, creating something beautiful and unique that other children mocked. Because the world was hard on little black girls who didn't fit neat categories. Because Zara was doing this alone, working 3 jobs, barely keeping them afloat, and still somehow failing at the only thing that mattered, keeping her baby safe. Last night, Minho had listened to all of it, had held her while she cried, had told her about losing his wife to cancer, about raising Hana alone, about the impossible weight of being everything to a child who deserved the world. They look at her and see what I do, he'd said, pouring them both another drink. Not a kid, a target, leverage, something to use against me. That's horrible, Zara had whispered. That's my life. He'd looked at her then, really looked, his dark eyes holding secrets and pain and something that made her heart skip. But tonight I just want to be someone else, someone who can have coffee with a beautiful woman without calculating threats. Can you give me that? Just tonight? She'd said yes, and now, sitting in her car with his shirt and his scent and the memory of his hands learning every inch of her skin, Zara knew the truth. One night would never be enough, but one night was all someone like her got with someone like him. She started the car, shoved his shirt into her bag where it would stay hidden like the secret it was, and drove toward her daughter's school. She didn't see the black SUV that pulled out 3 cars behind her. Didn't notice the man in the driver's seat speaking into his phone in rapid Korean. Didn't know that her name had just been added to a list of targets in a war she didn't know she was fighting. By the time she did, it would be too late. If you're already hooked, drop a like and share this with someone who loves dangerous men with soft hearts. Comment Team Minho if you think he should fight for her, or Team Zara if you think she should run. And hit that subscribe button because the next chapter is where everything goes sideways. Zara thought one night with Kang Minho would be a memory she could tuck away and forget. But in his world, nothing stays hidden. And the moment she walked out wearing his shirt, she became something far more dangerous than his maid. She became his weakness. The next chapter takes you back to where it all started, to the moment a crying woman in a parking garage caught the attention of a man who'd sworn never to let anyone close again, to the night that changed everything, to the choice that would put both their daughters in the crosshairs of a war neither of them saw coming. Because Minho's enemies don't just take territory, they take everything you love and burn it to ash. And they're already watching. Before we dive in, quick question. Have you ever made a decision you knew was a mistake but did it anyway? Drop guilty in the comments if you have. Because what you're about to witness is the definition of beautiful, reckless, can't look away disaster. Now let's rewind 12 hours and watch these two make the worst best decision of their lives. Tuesday, 6:47 p.m., underground parking garage. Kang Minho's driver dropped him at the private entrance, the black sedan disappearing into evening traffic before Minho even reached the elevator. He preferred it that way. The walk from car to penthouse giving him 60 seconds to shed the version of himself that negotiated territory disputes and authorized shipments that never appeared on any manifest. 60 seconds to remember. He was also a father who needed to call his daughter before her bedtime. He was pulling out his phone when he heard it, crying. Not loud, hysterical sobbing. Quiet, broken, the kind of crying that came from someone who'd learned that the world didn't care about your pain, so you'd better keep it to yourself. Minho should have kept walking, should have minded his business. In his world, curiosity got you killed, and compassion was a weakness rivals exploited. But he'd spent the last 3 years raising a daughter alone, and he knew that particular sound, the sound of a parent at the absolute end of their rope. He found her sitting on the concrete between 2 cars, a woman in cleaning scrubs, her back against a tire, phone clutched in one hand, while the other covered her mouth, as if she could physically hold the sobs inside. She hadn't heard him approach, didn't know she had an audience. "They're just kids," she was saying into the phone, her voice thick with tears. "I know they don't mean it, Mama, but Amara comes home crying every day, every single day, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to—" Her voice cracked completely. Minho should have walked away. He didn't. "Excuse me." His voice came out softer than he intended. "Are you hurt?" She jerked her head up, eyes wide. Deep brown eyes that were red-rimmed and exhausted and beautiful in a way that hit him like a punch to the chest. He knew her. Not personally, but he'd seen her. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, she cleaned his penthouse while he was at the gym. He'd come home to the smell of lemon cleaner and the sight of her leaving. Always professional. Always quick to nod and disappear. He'd never really looked at her before. He was looking now. She scrambled to her feet, nearly dropping her phone, swiping frantically at her face. "Mr. Kang, I'm so sorry. I'm leaving. I'll be out of your way." "You're not in my way." He pocketed his own phone. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine." The lie was automatic, reflexive. Just a long day. He should have accepted that. Should have nodded and walked away. But 3 years of tucking his daughter into bed every night had taught him to recognize a parent's specific brand of heartbreak. "Your daughter," he said quietly. "Something happened at school." Her composure crumbled. Fresh tears spilled over, and she looked away quickly, ashamed. "I'm sorry. This is so unprofessional. My daughter got sent home last month for pushing a boy off the swings." The words came out before he could stop them. "She told me," he said, "her mom abandoned her because she wasn't worth staying for." Zara's eyes snapped to his, shocked that he was sharing this, that he was still standing here. "What did you do?" she whispered. "I taught her 3 things. Minho leaned against the car beside her, maintaining distance but offering presence. 1. Words that hurt come from people who are hurting. 2. She's worth more than any cruel word could ever diminish. 3. Sometimes pushing people off swings is exactly the right response." A startled laugh broke through her tears. "You didn't." "I absolutely did. Then I bought the boy's father's company and fired him." He said it deadpan, and for a second she didn't know if he was joking. Then his mouth twitched, barely, almost imperceptibly, and she laughed again, real this time. "You're terrible," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'm honest." He pulled out his pocket square, Italian silk, monogrammed, and held it out. "Your daughter." "What happened?" She took the handkerchief, stared at it like it was a grenade. "I can't. This probably costs more than my rent." "It cost me nothing. My late wife bought it. She had expensive taste and a compulsive need to monogram everything I owned." He gestured for her to use it. "She'd be furious if she knew I was letting a woman cry without offering it." Zara dabbed at her eyes carefully, and Minho caught himself studying her. The elegant line of her neck, the way her cleaning scrubs couldn't hide the curves underneath, the exhaustion etched into every line of her face. She was beautiful. Not in the polished, expensive way of the women his associates tried to set him up with. Beautiful in the way of someone who'd survived things that should have broken her and kept going anyway. "Amara, my daughter, she speaks with an accent," Zara said finally. "My mother's from Jamaica, and Amara spent her first 5 years there before we moved back to the States. The other kids—" She closed her eyes. "They mock her. Every day. They say she talks funny, that she should go back where she came from. She's 7 years old, and she's already learning that being different means being a target." Minho's jaw tightened. Kids are cruel because adults teach them to be. "I know. But that doesn't help her. That doesn't make her stop crying herself to sleep." Zara's voice broke again. Today she finally snapped, hit a boy who was leading the teasing. "Now the school wants to suspend her and I have to work. I can't take time off, I can't afford daycare, and I definitely can't afford for her to fall behind in school because I'm failing at everything that matters." "You're not failing." The words came out harder than he meant. "You're surviving. There's a difference." She looked at him, really looked, and something passed between them. Recognition. The solidarity of 2 people fighting the same impossible fight in different weight classes. "Your wife," Zara said softly. "You said late wife. Cancer, 3 years ago." He'd never told anyone the next part, but the words came anyway. "Hannah was 4. She asked me every night for 6 months when Mommy was coming home. I didn't know how to tell her that home was a place her mother couldn't reach anymore. I'm so sorry." "Don't be. I had 7 years with the love of my life. Some people never get that." He straightened, suddenly aware of how much he'd shared, how close he'd come to showing the cracks. "Your daughter, what's her name?" "Amara. It means grace in Igbo. It's beautiful, like her mother." The compliment hung in the air between them, charged and unexpected. Zara's cheeks darkened. "Mr. Kang—" "Minho." He surprised himself. "If we're sharing our deepest parental failures in a parking garage, you should probably use my first name." "Minho." She tested the name, and he liked it too much in her mouth. "I should let you go. I'm sure you have— Do you drink?" The question came from nowhere, from the part of him that had been sealed off since his wife died, the part that remembered what it felt like to want something for himself. She blinked. "What?" "Alcohol. Do you drink it?" Yes, sometimes." "Good." He was already walking toward the elevator. Come up, have a drink. Tell me more about Amara and I'll tell you how I convinced Hana's school that suspension was really just an extended vacation they couldn't afford to give her. I can't. But she was following him. You're my employer. This is... One drink. He pressed the elevator button. Two parents commiserating about the impossible task of raising kids in a world designed to break them. Nothing more. The elevator arrived. Doors opened. He stepped inside and held the door, looking at her expectantly. Zara stood at the threshold, clearly torn between every professional instinct and the desperate need to feel less alone for just 1 hour. One drink, she said finally, stepping inside. The elevator doors closed. Neither of them noticed the security camera in the corner, its red recording light blinking steadily. Didn't know that in a monitoring station 3 blocks away, one of Park Jin-soo's men was already taking screenshots, already compiling a file, already planning how to use this. 8:15 p.m., Minho's penthouse. 1 drink became 2, 2 became 3. And somewhere around midnight, with the city lights glittering below them and a bottle of Japanese whiskey half empty between them, Zara forgot why this was supposed to be a bad idea. They'd moved from the kitchen to the living room, sitting on opposite ends of his leather couch, shoes off, defenses down. The conversation had drifted from their daughters to their lives. Her 3 jobs, his legitimate businesses, and the less legitimate ones he didn't name, but she clearly understood. You're afraid, Minho said, studying her over his glass. The alcohol had softened his edges, made him look younger, more like the man he might have been in a different life. Of what? That if you stop moving, you'll realize how tired you are. That if you stop fighting, everything will collapse. He leaned forward. I recognize it because I do the same thing. If I work hard enough, plan carefully enough, control everything tightly enough, maybe I can protect her. Maybe I can keep her safe from a world that took her mother. Zara set down her glass. Can you? Keep her safe? No. The admission seemed to cost him. No one can promise that, but I can make damn sure that anyone who tries to hurt her regrets being born. That's dark. That's parenthood. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We'd burn the world down for them. We just pretend we wouldn't because society requires us to be civilized. And if society didn't require it? His eyes met hers, dark and burning. Then I'd be exactly the monster people whisper I am. She should have been scared. Should have remembered the rumors about Kang Minho, the businesses that ran too smoothly, the competitors who disappeared, the empire built on foundations everyone suspected but no one could prove. Instead, she felt something else entirely. I don't think you're a monster, she said quietly. You don't know me. I know you bought your daughter's bully's father's company just to fire him. I know you spent 2 hours listening to a woman you barely know cry about her problems. I know you look at your daughter's picture on your phone at least 5 times a day when you think no one's watching. She'd noticed that during her morning cleaning sessions, the way he'd check his phone, smile at the screen, then immediately school his expression back to neutral. Minho went very still. You notice things. It's my job to be invisible. Invisible people see everything. You're not invisible. His voice dropped lower, rougher. Not to me, not tonight. The air between them shifted, thickened. Zara's pulse kicked up. Minho, tell me to stop. He moved closer, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. Tell me this is a bad idea, that you work for me, that this crosses every line. Tell me, and I'll call you a car and we'll pretend this conversation never happened. She should have said it. Should have stood up, thanked him for the drinks, and walked away with her dignity and employment intact. Instead, she whispered, What if I don't want to stop? His control shattered. He kissed her like a man drowning, his hands framing her face, his mouth claiming hers with a desperation that matched her own. She gasped against his lips, and he swallowed the sound, pulling her into his lap, his hands sliding into her hair. Bedroom, she managed between kisses. If we're doing this, we're doing this. He stood, lifting her with him, her legs wrapping around his waist. But Zara, I know. She kissed him again, harder. Just tonight. Tomorrow we go back to normal, but tonight let me pretend I'm not alone. Let me pretend someone sees me. I see you. He carried her toward his bedroom, and his voice was raw, honest, devastating. God help me, I see everything. The bedroom door closed behind them, and in that moment, neither of them cared about tomorrow, about consequences, about the complicated reality that waited on the other side of sunrise. In that moment, they were just two broken people finding something whole in each other's arms. It was enough. It had to be. Wednesday, 11:23 a.m. Undisclosed warehouse, industrial district. Kang Min-ho stood in the center of the warehouse, surrounded by stacked shipping containers that officially held electronics and officially had nothing to do with the weapons actually inside them. His brother Taemin was mid-sentence, explaining the Park situation, but Min-ho's mind kept drifting to 3 hours ago, to Zara's face when he'd called sleeping with her a mistake, to the way she'd looked at him like he was exactly the monster she'd sworn he wasn't. Young! Taemin snapped his fingers in front of Min-ho's face. Are you listening? Park's moving on our territory. He knows about the shipment, which means we have a leak. Min-ho forced his attention back. How bad? Bad enough that he's confident? He sent a message this morning. Taemin pulled out his phone, turned it toward Min-ho. The photo made Min-ho's blood run cold. It was grainy, time-stamped from last night. Security footage from his building's parking garage. Him and Zara getting into the elevator together. Her face was partially visible, enough to identify her if you knew where to look. Fuck. The word came out quiet, deadly. Yeah. Taemin pocketed the phone. Who is she? No one. Min-ho. She's no one. His voice went hard. A coincidence. Someone I helped carry groceries. Park's fishing. Taemin studied his brother's face. They'd known each other their whole lives, had built this organization from their father's ashes. He knew when Min-ho was lying. If she's no one, then we don't have a problem, Taemin said carefully. But if she's someone, if Park thinks she matters to you, she doesn't. Then why did you put a security detail on her this morning? Silence fell between them, heavy and accusatory. Min-ho's jaw tightened. Precaution. Taemin laughed, but it held no humor. Young, I've watched you turn away every woman who's looked at you twice since Minji died. You don't do precautions. You do controlled distance. So either this woman means nothing, and you're being paranoid, or she means something, and you just painted a target on her back. Before Min-ho could respond, one of their men approached. Ju-won, head of their surveillance team. His expression was grim. Boss, we have a situation. The detail you put on Zara Mitchell, they just reported in. Park's crew is moving on her location. Min-ho's heart stopped. Where is she? Her daughter's school. She's in a parent-teacher meeting about... Min-ho was already running for the exit, Taemin shouting behind him, but he didn't stop, couldn't stop. All he could see was Zara's face that morning, the hurt, the resignation. I'm very good at forgetting things I'm not supposed to remember. She thought he'd used her. Thought she was disposable. She had no idea she'd just become the most valuable piece on a board she didn't know she was playing on. His driver had the car running. Min-ho threw himself into the back seat. Evergreen Elementary, now. And, call the detail. Tell them to move in. Get her out of there. Boss, if we move in heavy at a school... I don't care about optics. Min-ho's voice cracked like a whip. Get her out, now. The car peeled out, tires screaming against asphalt. Min-ho pulled out his phone, dialed Zara's number. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Please pick up, please. Voicemail. He tried again. Same result. His chest tightened. In the rearview mirror, he caught his driver's eyes, concern mixed with the careful neutrality of someone who'd worked for him long enough to know when to stay silent. How long? Min-ho bit out. 15 minutes in this traffic. Make it 10. 11:31 a.m., Evergreen Elementary School. Zara sat across from Ms. Chen, Amara's second-grade teacher, trying to focus on the conversation about behavioral concerns and appropriate conflict resolution, while her mind kept circling back to this morning. To Min-ho's face when he'd seen her in his kitchen. To the way he'd looked at her like she was a problem to be solved, not a person he'd held like she was precious just hours before. Consider it payment for last night. The words still burned. Ms. Mitchell. Ms. Chen's voice pulled her back. Are you all right? I'm sorry, yes. You were saying? I was saying that Amara is a bright, sweet child, but the incident yesterday hitting another student, that's not something we can overlook. Our policy is... The classroom door opened. A man in a dark suit stepped in, and Zara's stomach dropped. She recognized him. He'd been in Minho's penthouse before, always with other men in similar suits, always speaking in low Korean that stopped whenever she entered a room. "Ms. Mitchell," the man said, his English accented but clear. "I need you to come with me, now." Ms. Chen stood up, alarmed. "Excuse me, this is a private meeting. You can't just... There's a situation." The man's eyes never left Zara's face. "Your daughter is safe. She's in her classroom with 2 of our people, but we need to leave, immediately." Zara's heart hammered. "What situation? What people? Who are you?" "I work for Kang Minho. There are men outside who want to hurt you to hurt him. We have maybe 2 minutes before they breach the building." The room tilted. "What?" "I don't have time to explain." He moved toward her, hand extended. "Trust me or don't. But if you stay here, people will get hurt. Children will get hurt. Is that what you want?" Zara looked at Miss Chen, who'd gone pale. Looked at the window, where she could now see, if she looked carefully, 2 black SUVs pulling into the parking lot. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. "Amara is being extracted through the service exit with my partner. She'll be in a secured location within 3 minutes, but only if you come with me now." Every instinct screamed that this was insane, but the man's face held no deception, only urgency, and somewhere under her terror, she remembered Minho's words from last night. "They look at her and see what I do. Not a kid, a target, leverage. She'd become leverage." "Go," Zara said to Ms. Chen. "Lock the door behind me and get the school in lockdown. Call the police." "Ms. Mitchell..." But Zara was already moving, following the man in the suit out the door, down the hallway, her heart slamming against her ribs. Behind them, she heard the first gunshot, 11:34 a.m. school parking lot. Minho's car screeched into the parking lot just as the first gunshot cracked through the air. He was out before the vehicle fully stopped, his weapon drawn, his mind calculating angles and threats and the 1,000 ways this could end in blood. Park's men were at the main entrance, 3 of them, forcing the doors. Parents screamed, running for their cars. A security guard was on the ground, bleeding from his leg. Taemin's voice crackled through his earpiece. "We're 2 minutes out with backup. Do not engage alone." Minho was already moving. He put 2 bullets in the first man's kneecaps, non-lethal, but the man went down screaming. The sound drew the other 2's attention. They turned, weapons rising. "Walk away," Minho said, his voice carrying across the parking lot. "This doesn't have to escalate." One of them laughed. "Park's orders. We take the woman or we take your daughter. Your choice." Something dark and violent unfurled in Minho's chest. "Wrong answer." He moved like water, fluid, inevitable. One shot disarmed the laughing man. Another shattered the second one's elbow. They'd live. They'd hurt. But they'd live. Because if he killed them here, in front of witnesses, in front of children, he'd become exactly the monster everyone already believed he was. And Hana would see it on the news. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Taemin's backup vehicles roared into the parking lot. And from the side entrance, Minho saw him, Ju-won, his surveillance lead, escorting 2 figures at a dead run, Zara, and a little girl who had to be Amara. Minho's weapon lowered slightly. She was safe. She was... That's when he saw it. A 4th man, hidden behind a car, weapon trained on Zara's back. Time slowed. Minho's body moved before his brain caught up. He was running, screaming Zara's name, bringing his weapon up even though the angle was impossible, even though he couldn't make this shot without risking hitting her. The gunshot echoed, but it wasn't from the 4th man's weapon. It was from Ju-won's. The surveillance lead had seen the threat half a second before Minho had turned, fired, put a bullet through the 4th man's shoulder that sent him spinning into the concrete. Zara stumbled, turning at the sound, her arms locked around her daughter. Her eyes found Minho's across the parking lot. In them, he saw everything: terror, confusion, betrayal, and underneath it all, a question. "What have you done to me?" 12:15 p.m., safe house, location undisclosed. The safe house was a nondescript apartment in a building Minho owned under 3 shell companies. 2 bedrooms, reinforced walls, weapons cache hidden behind a false panel in the kitchen. Amara was in the back bedroom with one of Taemin's most trusted operatives, a woman named Soo Jin, who'd worked as a kindergarten teacher before joining the organization and somehow managed to be both deadly and maternal. Zara sat on the couch, shock still, her cleaning uniform torn at the shoulder, a bruise forming on her arm where Juwon had grabbed her to pull her to safety. Minho stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Korean to Taemin. "The police?" "Handled. 3 injured suspects in custody, claiming gang activity unrelated to the school. No witnesses saw you shoot." "The parents?" "Scared but safe. School's closed for the week. Media's calling it a gang incident." "Park?" A pause. "Wants to talk? Says this was a message, not an attack." Minho's grip tightened on the phone. "Tell him if he comes near her again, there won't be enough of him left to send messages." "Young, tell him." He hung up, turned to face Zara. She was staring at him, and in the harsh afternoon light, he could see she'd been crying. Silent tears that had dried in tracks down her brown skin. "Are you hurt?" His voice came out rougher than he intended. "Am I hurt?" She laughed, and it sounded broken. "Men with guns showed up at my daughter's school. Your men put her in a car without my permission. Someone tried to shoot me, and you're asking if I'm hurt?" "Zara? No." She stood up, her whole body trembling. "No, you don't get to say my name like that. Like last night meant..." "It did mean something." "Then why did this happen?" Her voice cracked. "Why are there men trying to kill me? Why is my baby in a safe house with strangers because I made the mistake of sleeping with you?" "It's not a mistake." "Yes, it is." The words burst out of her. "You're a criminal, Minho. Not just rich, not just powerful. You're actually, literally, a criminal. Those men work for you. This safe house belongs to you. The guns, the violence, all of it. That's your world. I know what I am. Do you?" She stepped closer, her eyes blazing. "Do you know what you've made me? I was invisible. I was safe. I worked 3 jobs and raised my daughter, and we were fine. But then I cried in front of you, and you looked at me like I mattered, and I was stupid enough to believe it. You do matter. I'm leverage." The scream tore out of her. "That's what those men said. We take the woman or we take your daughter. I'm not a person to you. I'm a liability, a weakness to exploit." Minho's jaw worked. "That's not true." "Then what am I?" The question hung in the air, heavy with everything he couldn't say, everything that terrified him more than any bullet ever had. What was she? The woman who'd made him feel human again? The woman whose laugh had reminded him that life wasn't just obligation and violence? The woman he'd held in the dark and whispered secrets to that he'd never told anyone? Or the woman whose existence now put a target on her back, whose daughter was in danger because he'd been selfish enough to want one night of not being alone? "You're someone I should have stayed away from," he said finally. "You're right about that." Something in her eyes died. "I want to go home." "You can't. Not yet. Not until..." "Until what? Until you've killed whoever's after you? Until your war is over?" She laughed bitterly. "Your war is never over, Minho. That's the point. Violence is your currency, and I don't want any part of it." "Amara, don't you dare use my daughter's name." Her voice went lethal. "Don't you dare pretend this is about protecting her when you're the reason she needs protecting." The words hit like bullets, because she was right. Everything she said was right. "I'll have Taemin take you to a hotel," Minho said quietly. "Secured, paid for, under a different name. Stay there until this is resolved. Then you can go home." "And my job? My other jobs? My life?" "I'll pay you for the time you're..." "I don't want your money." The shout echoed. "God, do you really not understand? I don't want your money, your protection, your guilt payments. I want my life back, the one I had before you decided to notice me." Minho's throat tightened. "I can't give you that." "I know." Zara picked up her bag, moved toward the bedroom where her daughter waited. At the door, she stopped, didn't turn around. "Last night, you asked me what I saw when I looked at you. I said I didn't see a monster." "Zara, I was wrong. Now she did turn, and her eyes were dry. You're not a monster. Monsters don't know what they are. You know exactly what you are, and you chose it anyway. That's worse. She disappeared into the bedroom. Minho stood alone in the safe house, surrounded by weapons and reinforced walls and the ruins of the best night he'd had in 3 years. His phone buzzed. A text from Park Jin-soo. She's lovely. Shame she got caught in our business. Call me when you're ready to trade. Her safety for my territory. You have 48 hours. Minho stared at the message. 48 hours to choose between the woman who'd reminded him he was human and the organization that had consumed his humanity long ago. He already knew which he'd choose. He'd known the moment he'd called for her security detail. The only question now was whether she'd survive his decision. Wednesday, 11:47 p.m., Minho's penthouse. Minho stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sprawling beneath him like a kingdom he'd built with blood and calculated violence. His reflection stared back, a man who looked exactly like the monster Zara had called him. She was right to run. She was smart to take her daughter and disappear into the secured hotel room Timon had arranged, smart to refuse his calls, his messages, his desperate attempts to explain something that had no good explanation. You know exactly what you are, and you chose it anyway. His phone sat on the glass coffee table behind him, Park Jin-soo's message still glowing on the screen. 47 hours, 13 minutes. Clock's ticking, Kang. Her safety for my territory. Simple trade. Except nothing about this was simple. The territory Park wanted, 3 blocks in Koreatown that generated $7 million annually in protection fees and served as the distribution hub for their weapons imports, wasn't just income. It was strategic positioning. Control of those streets meant control of access to the ports, to the networks, to the power structure that kept their organization functioning. Giving it to Park would cripple them, but keeping it would kill Zara. Yong. Taemin's voice came from the doorway. Minho hadn't heard him enter, which meant he was more distracted than he'd thought. Distraction got you killed in their world. What is it? We have movement. Park's crew hit 2 of our warehouses in the last hour. They're escalating, trying to force your hand before the deadline. Taemin moved to stand beside him, his reflection joining Minho's in the glass. They're also spreading word on the street. Everyone knows about her now. Everyone knows you have a weakness. I don't have a weakness. Minho. Taemin's voice was gentle, which was somehow worse than if he'd been angry. You put a security detail on her after one night. You ran into active gunfire to protect her. You've checked your phone 37 times in the last hour. If that's not a weakness, I don't know what is. Minho's jaw tightened. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the plan, because in 47 hours, Park gets an answer, and I need to know if I'm preparing for a territory handover or a war. War. The word came out flat, certain. I don't negotiate with threats. Even when the threat is her life? Especially then. Minho turned to face his brother. If I give Park what he wants, it doesn't end with territory. It ends with him knowing that the way to control me is through her. He'll use her again and again, until either she's dead or I am. So you protect her by letting her go. I protect her by eliminating the threat. Minho's voice went cold, calculated. Park wants a war? He'll get one. We hit his operations, cut his supply lines, turn his own people against him. Within a week, he'll have nothing left to bargain with. Taemin studied his brother's face. And Zara? What do we do about her? She stays in protective custody until Park is handled. Then she goes home, gets a severance package that sets her up for life, and forgets I exist. You think that's what she wants? I think that's what she deserves. That's not what I asked. Minho's hands clenched into fists. It doesn't matter what she wants. She said it herself. I'm a criminal. My world is violence. The best thing I can do for her is stay away. Is that what Minji would have wanted? The name hit like a physical blow. Minho's head snapped toward his brother, anger flaring hot and immediate. Don't! Someone has to say it. Taemin didn't back down. Minji died 3 years ago. You've been a ghost ever since, going through the motions, raising Hana, running the organization but not actually living. Then this woman shows up and suddenly you're calling me at midnight, putting security details on civilians, running into gunfire without backup. She woke something up in you, Hyung, something you buried with your wife. Minji was different. How? Because she knew what you were when she married you? Because she chose this life? Taemin moved closer. Minji chose you despite the danger. Maybe Zara would too if you gave her the choice instead of making it for her. I can't risk. You can't risk what? Caring about someone? Being happy? God forbid you actually want something for yourself instead of just surviving for Hannah's sake. The words hung in the air between them, razor sharp and true. Minho's phone buzzed, a text from the security detail at Zara's hotel. Subject attempting to leave the premises. Orders? His heart stopped. She's leaving? Taemin looked over his shoulder, read the message. Where would she go? We told her it wasn't safe. Minho was already moving, grabbing his keys, his jacket. She's going home, to get clothes for Amara, personal items. She thinks she can slip in and out before anyone notices. Park's people are watching her building. I know. So if you go there, then I go there. Minho's voice was steel. Tell the detail to follow her, but don't intercept. I'll handle it. Minho, if this is a trap, then I spring it. He stopped at the door, looked back at his brother. You asked me what the plan is. The plan is, I keep her alive. Everything else is negotiable. He left before Taemin could respond. Thursday, 12:33 a.m., Zara's apartment building. Zara's hands shook as she fit her key into the lock of her third-floor apartment. The building was quiet. Too quiet, the kind of silence that pressed against your eardrums and made every small sound feel like an alarm. She shouldn't be here. The security team at the hotel, Minho's people, had made that very clear. Stay put. Don't leave. It's not safe. But Amara needed her stuffed elephant, the one she'd slept with since she was 2, and Zara needed to feel like she still had control over something, anything, in a life that had been hijacked by one night of weakness. The lock clicked. She pushed. The door opened. The apartment was exactly as she'd left it that morning. Breakfast dishes still in the sink, Amara's homework on the kitchen table, the life they'd built together in 900 square feet of barely affordable stability. Tears burned Zara's eyes. This morning, her biggest worry had been Amara's school suspension. Now, men with guns knew her name. Now, her daughter was sleeping in a hotel room with armed guards outside the door. Now, everything was broken. Because of him. Because of one night when she'd been stupid enough to think a man like Kang Minho could look at a woman like her and see anything other than something temporary. Something disposable. Consider it payment for last night. The words still stung. She moved through the apartment quickly, grabbing Amara's elephant, some clothes, her own laptop, important documents. She was shoving everything into a duffel bag when she heard it. The front door opening, slowly, deliberately. Zara's heart slammed against her ribs. She grabbed the closest thing that could be a weapon, a heavy lamp from the side table, and backed toward the bedroom. Zara. The voice was familiar, deep, carrying that slight accent that had whispered her name in the dark. Don't run. Minho stepped into the apartment, and in the dim light from the hallway, he looked less like a businessman and more like what he actually was. Dangerous, lethal, moving with the predatory grace of someone who'd survived in a world built on violence. What are you doing here? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. What are you doing here? I told you to stay at the hotel. You don't get to tell me what to do. She raised the lamp higher, even though they both knew it would be useless against him. This is my home, my life. Your life is in danger. He moved closer, and she saw the gun holstered at his side, saw the tension in his shoulders. Park's men are watching this building. You have maybe 5 minutes before they move in. Then you should go. You're what they want. No. His voice dropped lower. You're what they want. I'm just the leverage. The words hit differently than when she'd said them in the safe house. Coming from him, they sounded like confession, like guilt. Why did you come here? She asked quietly. Because you're making it impossible to keep you safe when you won't stay where I put you. I'm not one of your soldiers, Minho. You can't just give me orders and expect... I know. He ran a hand through his hair, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked lost. I know you're not my soldier, not my employee, not my anything. But Zara, please, let me get you out of here. Then you can hate me from a safe distance. I don't hate you. The words escaped before she could stop them. His eyes snapped to hers. You should. I know. She set down the lamp. But I don't. I hate what you are. I hate what you've done to my life. I hate that my daughter thinks the men with guns are the good guys because they gave her candy and told her they work for her mommy's friend. But I don't hate you. And that's the worst part. Minho crossed the distance between them in 2 strides. Zara, don't. She held up a hand. Don't come closer. Don't say whatever you're about to say. Because last night, you made me feel like I mattered. This morning, you made me feel like a mistake. And tonight, I'm too tired to figure out which version of you is real. Both. His voice was raw. Both versions are real. The man who held you last night, who told you things I've never told anyone. That's me. The man who called it a mistake this morning because he was terrified of what it meant. That's also me. I'm not good at this, Zara. I'm good at violence. I'm good at control. I'm not good at wanting something I can't have. Who says you can't have me? The question hung in the air, dangerous and honest. Minho's hands clenched at his sides. My life says it. My daughter says it. The fact that right now there are men downstairs who will hurt you just to make me bleed, that says it. So you're protecting me by pushing me away. I'm protecting you by keeping you alive. What if I don't want that kind of protection? She stepped closer into his space, close enough to see the war playing out behind his eyes. What if I'd rather take the risk than live wondering what could have been? You don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. Her voice was steady now, certain. I'm saying that I see you, Minho. All of you. The violence, the danger, the empire you've built on things I probably don't want to know about. And I also see the man who listened to a stranger cry in a parking garage. The man who talked about his daughter like she was his whole world. The man who looked at me like I was worth something. You are worth something. Then prove it. She reached up, cupped his face, felt him tense under her touch. Stop making decisions for me. Stop pushing me away for my own good. If there's something real between us, if last night meant anything, then let me choose. Let me decide if you're worth the risk. His control shattered. He kissed her like he was drowning, like she was air and he'd been suffocating for 3 years. His hands tangled in her hair, pulled her closer, and she gasped against his mouth, met him with equal desperation. This is insane, he murmured against her lips. Completely. You should run. I know. She kissed him harder. I'm not going to. That's when they heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, multiple sets, moving fast. Minho pulled away, his hand going to his weapon in one fluid motion. How many exits does this building have? 2. Front and fire escape. Fire escape. Now. He moved to the window, looked out, cursed in Korean. They're covering both. We're trapped. Zara's blood ran cold. Amara is safe. Taemin has her. He was already dialing his phone, speaking rapid Korean. Then to Zara. Backup is 3 minutes out. We just need to hold them off until... The door exploded inward. 3 men burst through, weapons raised. Minho fired twice, precise, controlled, taking out the first man's knee and the second's shoulder. They went down screaming, but the third man's gun was already trained on Zara. Lower your weapon, Kang, the man said in accented English, or I paint your walls with her brain. Minho froze, his gun still raised, his eyes calculating angles and odds and outcomes. Do it, the man barked. Now! Minho's jaw clenched. Then slowly, deliberately, he lowered his weapon, set it on the floor, raised his hands. Good boy. The man smiled. Park sends his regards. He'd like you both to join him for a conversation, downstairs, in the van. If you hurt her, you'll what? You're unarmed. Your backup is still 2 minutes away. You have no leverage, Kang. For the first time in your miserable life, you're actually powerless. The man gestured with his gun. Move, both of you. Minho looked at Zara, and in his eyes she saw something that terrified her more than the gun. Resignation. He was going to let them take him, was going to surrender, give himself up, because he thought it would save her. "No," Zara said. Everyone looked at her. "No?" The gunman laughed. "You don't get a vote, sweetheart." "You want leverage?" Zara stepped forward, putting herself between the gun and Minho. "I'm your leverage. Take me. Leave him. Zara, don't—" "I'm what Park wants, right? The weakness?" She looked at the gunman, kept her voice steady even though she was terrified. "So take me. Tell Park that Kang Minho's weakness is in his custody. See what that gets you." The man's smile widened. "Boss is gonna like you. You're smart. Probably too smart for this idiot." He grabbed her arm, yanked her forward. "Don't touch her!" Minho's voice went lethal. "Or what?" The gunman pressed his weapon against Zara's temple. "Come with us peacefully, or I kill her right here. Your choice." Minho's hands were shaking. Zara had never seen his hands shake. "It's okay," she said softly. "Minho, it's okay." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is." She met his eyes. "You asked me to choose. This is my choice. I choose you. Whatever happens next, I choose you." Before he could respond, the gunman was dragging her toward the door, his partners limping behind despite their wounds. Minho moved to follow, but a fourth man appeared, one they hadn't seen, and slammed a pistol into the back of Minho's head. He dropped like a stone. "Minho!" Zara screamed, fighting against her captor, but his grip was iron. "He'll live," the gunman said. "For now. Whether he stays alive depends on how this conversation goes." They dragged her out of the apartment, down the stairs, into the night. The last thing Zara saw was Minho's blood pooling on her apartment floor, and the last thing she thought was, "I'm sorry, Amara. Mommy tried to keep you safe." Thursday, 2:17 a.m. Abandoned brewery, industrial district. Zara had been in the cold metal chair for what felt like hours, but was probably only 40 minutes. Her wrists were zip-tied to the armrests. Her face throbbed where one of Park's men had hit her when she'd tried to run. Blood trickled from her split lip, copper-tasting and wrong. The room smelled like rust and old beer and something darker, the scent of places where bad things happened regularly. Park Jinsu sat across from her, perfectly relaxed in an expensive suit that probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe early 40s, handsome in a cold way, with a smile that never reached his eyes. "You're wondering why you're still alive," he said conversationally, as if they were discussing the weather. Zara said nothing, kept her face neutral even though terror was eating through her chest. "It's because you're valuable. Not to me personally, I don't care about you at all, but to Kang Minho?" Park leaned forward. "You're priceless. Do you know how long I've been trying to find leverage against that man? 3 years. 3 years since his wife died and he became this untouchable ghost. No vices, no weaknesses, nothing I could use. Then I showed up," Zara said quietly. "Then you showed up." Park's smile widened. "Wearing his shirt, looking thoroughly fucked. Security footage doesn't lie, Ms. Mitchell. You gave me exactly what I needed. So what now? You kill me to hurt him? God, no. That's wasteful." Park pulled out his phone, began typing. "I'm going to give him a choice, you or his organization. One woman he's known for 2 days, or the empire he's spent 15 years building. It's really very simple. He'll choose the organization." "Will he?" Park studied her face. "Because the man I know, the careful, calculated Kang Minho, would absolutely make that choice. But the man who ran into active gunfire at an elementary school, the man who got himself knocked unconscious trying to protect you, that man might surprise us both." Zara's throat tightened. "You're wrong about him." "Am I? Tell me, Ms. Mitchell, what do you actually know about the man you're defending? Do you know how many people he's killed? Do you know about the weapons trafficking, the protection rackets, the politicians in his pocket?" Park's voice went soft, almost gentle. "Do you know that 3 months ago, he personally executed a man who tried to skim from his operations, put a bullet in his head in front of 20 witnesses, then went home and tucked his daughter into bed?" The words hit like ice water. Zara's hands trembled. "That's the man you're willing to die for," Park continued. "A killer, a criminal, someone who will destroy anything that threatens his control." "You're lying." "I'm really not." Park held up his phone. I could show you the photos if you'd like. Very graphic, very final. That's who Kang Minho is when he's not pretending to be human for you. The door opened. One of Park's men entered, phone in hand. Boss, he's here. Already? Park checked his watch. Impressive, head injury and all. Bring him in. They dragged Minho through the door 30 seconds later. Blood matted his hair where they'd struck him. His face was bruised, one eye swelling shut. His hands were bound behind his back, but his eyes, when they found Zara's, burned with an intensity that made her breath catch. Let her go. Minho's voice was rough, damaged. This is between us. No, this is very much about her. Park gestured and his men forced Minho into a chair facing Zara. She's the point. She's always been the point. Minho's jaw clenched. Name your price. Ah, see? This is what I wanted. Kang Minho, the untouchable, actually negotiating. Park moved between them, enjoying himself. My price is simple. The Koreatown territory, the port access, and 30% of your weapons operation. In exchange, she walks out of here alive. Done. Minho, no, Zara started. Done, he repeated, his eyes never leaving Park's face. Draft the papers. I'll sign them tonight. Park laughed. Just like that. 15 years of work handed over for a woman you fucked once? Just like that. Minho, don't. Zara's voice cracked. Don't do this for me. Be quiet, he said, but his voice was gentle. This doesn't concern you. The hell it doesn't, she yanked against her restraints. You think I want you to give up everything because of me? You think I can live with that? You'll live. That's all that matters. No. The word tore out of her. No, it's not all that matters. Your daughter matters. Your organization, all the people who depend on you, they matter. I'm not worth... You're worth everything. Minho's voice went raw. Zara, you're worth everything, and I'm sorry it took me this long to say it. I'm sorry I called you a mistake. I'm sorry I pushed you away. I'm sorry that knowing me put you in danger. But I'm not sorry for last night. I'm not sorry for one moment of feeling like a human being instead of a monster. Tears streamed down Zara's face. You're not a monster. Yes, I am. He smiled, sad and certain. But with you, for one night, I got to pretend I wasn't. Park cleared his throat. This is very touching, truly, but I'm bored now. Kang, agree to my terms and she lives. Refuse and I kill her while you watch. Simple choice. I already agreed. I know, but I want you to say it while looking at her. I want her to hear you give up everything for her. I want that guilt to eat at her for the rest of her life. Park's smile turned cruel. So say it. Tell her you choose her over your empire. Minho's eyes found Zara's, held. I choose you, he said quietly, over everything, over everyone. I choose you. The words hung in the air, devastating and honest and true. Zara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she could see was the man who'd held her in the dark, who'd listened to her cry, who'd made her feel like she mattered, giving up everything he'd built just to keep her alive. It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever done for her. It was also completely unacceptable. No, Zara said. Everyone looked at her. No? Park raised an eyebrow. You don't get a vote, Ms. Mitchell. Yes, I do. Zara looked at Minho. You asked me last night if I wanted one night or something real. I didn't answer, but I'm answering now. Zara, don't... Something real means partnership, she continued, her voice gaining strength. It means I don't let you destroy yourself to save me. It means we figure this out together or not at all. There's nothing to figure out, Minho said desperately. This is the only way. No, it's not. She turned to Park. You want leverage? You want to control him? Killing me doesn't do that. It just makes him a man with nothing left to lose. And from what I understand, that's the most dangerous thing in your world. Park's smile faded slightly. What are you saying? I'm saying make a different deal. Not his territory for my life. His cooperation for my daughter's safety. Zara, no. Shut up, Minho. She kept her eyes on Park. You don't want to fight him, you want to control him. So guarantee my daughter's safety, real protection, not just words, and he'll work with you. Strategic partnership, not hostile takeover. Park studied her face. You're bargaining for your child, not yourself. I'm bargaining for a solution where nobody dies and everyone gets what they actually want. You get access to his networks. He keeps his territory. Amara grows up safe. Her voice caught. I go back to my life, away from all of this. No. Minho's voice was steel. Absolutely not. It's the only way. Zara finally looked at him, and the pain in her eyes nearly broke him. We've known each other for 2 days, Minho. You can't give up everything for 2 days. It wasn't about the time. I know. Tears spilled over. But it has to be. Because I can't let you destroy yourself for me. I won't. The door burst open. Taman stormed in with 10 armed men, weapons raised, tactical gear, cold fury on his face. Police are 2 minutes out, Park. So here's how this ends. You let them both go, or every law enforcement agency in the state suddenly gets very interested in your operations. Your choice. Park's face went white. You called the cops? Worse. I called the FBI. You've been moving guns across state lines, Park. That's federal. That's 25 to life. Taman's smile was vicious. My brother may be sentimental, but I'm not. So cut them loose or burn. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Park nodded. Cut them loose. His men moved to comply, slicing through Minho's bonds first, then Zara's. Minho was on his feet instantly, pulling Zara up, checking her face, her wrists, his hands shaking. Are you hurt? Did they... I'm fine. She stepped back, creating distance. Minho, I meant what I said. This can't happen. We can't happen. Zara, I have a daughter to protect. You have a life that's too dangerous for us. This was... Her voice broke. This was a beautiful mistake, but it was still a mistake. She walked toward the exit, toward Taman's men, toward safety and separation, and the life she'd had before Kang Minho looked at her like she was worth saving. Minho stood frozen, everything he wanted to say locked behind the certainty that she was right. She was right, and it was killing him, 3 months later. Zara stood in her apartment packing boxes. The severance package Minho had arranged, delivered through lawyers, never in person, had been enough to move Amara to a better school district, to quit her extra jobs, to finally breathe. She should be happy. She wasn't. Because every morning she woke up in a bed that wasn't his, wearing a shirt that wasn't his, missing a man she'd known for one night. The doorbell rang. Probably the movers, she thought, wiping her eyes. She opened the door. Minho stood there. He looked thinner. Tired. There was a fresh scar on his cheekbone she didn't recognize, but his eyes, God, his eyes, held the same intensity that had stopped her heart 3 months ago. Hi, he said. Hi. Her voice came out barely a whisper. Can I come in? She should say no. Should close the door, protect herself, remember all the reasons this couldn't work. She stepped aside. He entered slowly, taking in the packed boxes, the dismantled life. You're moving. Better school district for Amara. Good, that's good. He shoved his hands in his pockets. I should have called first. Why didn't you? Because you blocked my number and my emails and had Taman tell me to stop sending gifts. A hint of a smile. You're very thorough. I had to be. I know. He took a breath. Zara, I need to tell you something. And you're going to think I'm insane, but I need you to hear it anyway. Minho, I stepped down. The words didn't make sense. What? From the organization. Taman's in charge now. I'm just a silent partner. I still own businesses, still make money, but the violence, the territory fights, the criminal empire, that's done. I walked away. Zara's legs went weak. She sat on a packing box. Why? Because you were right. My daughter deserves a father who doesn't have blood on his hands. And He moved closer, knelt in front of her. I deserve the chance to be the man I was with you that night. Not for 2 hours, for the rest of my life. You can't change who you are. I'm not trying to change who I am. I'm trying to become who I could be. With you. He pulled something from his pocket. The white dress shirt. His shirt? The one she'd left at the hotel? You left this. I didn't want any reminders. I kept it. I've kept it for 3 months. His voice went rough. Zara, I know this is crazy. I know we barely know each other. But that night in your apartment, when you told Park you chose me, that meant something. Tell me it meant something." Tears burned her eyes. "It meant everything." "Then let me prove I can be worthy of it." He reached up, cupped her face. "Let me prove that I'm not just the monster, that I can be the man who listened to you cry, who made you coffee, who wanted nothing except to be close to you for one night." "What are you asking me?" "I'm asking for a chance. Not for forever, not for promises, just for a chance to take you to dinner, to meet Amara properly, to show you that there's a version of this that doesn't end in blood and bullets." Zara looked at him, this dangerous, impossible man who'd walked away from an empire because she'd asked him to choose differently. "One dinner," she whispered. Hope flared in his eyes. "One dinner? One dinner. And you meet Amara first. And if she doesn't like you, this ends before it starts. My daughter's safety comes first. I wouldn't have it any other way." She leaned forward, pressed her forehead against his. "This is insane." "Completely," he smiled. "But you're worth the insanity." "Minho?" "Yeah?" "That morning, when you woke up and found me in your shirt, what I wanted to whisper before I left was..." She took a breath. "I wanted to tell you that I'd already fallen for you, that one night was enough to make me want 1,000 more. That scared me more than any gun ever could." His hands tightened on her face. "That's what I wanted to hear. What stopped your heart wasn't fear or danger or any of the things I thought." He kissed her softly. "It was the same thing that stopped mine. The terrifying, impossible truth that sometimes one night is all it takes to change everything. Are you ready for everything to change? With you?" He pulled her closer. "I'm ready for anything." From the bedroom, Amara's voice called out, "Mommy, who's at the door?" Zara smiled through her tears. "Someone I'd like you to meet, baby." She stood, took Minho's hand, and walked toward the future, uncertain, complicated, and somehow exactly right. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is let someone in, and sometimes it's the only thing worth doing.